Ben Shapiro.
Yeah.
Not a hip hop guy. I would say super duper hyper conservative to the point where he's kind of checked out. It is an art. It is a music. It is a craft. It does have melody. It does have rhythm, right?
Yeah.
How do you think that interaction went with Ben Shapiro?
Ruslan.
Being single in this marketplace, we talked a little bit about that.
Sure.
But before we get into that, I kind of want to hear like just your experience and some of the folks you've been able to interview with, how those situations, you know, from your vantage point went. So like Ben Shapiro.
Yeah.
Not a hip hop guy. I would say super duper hyper conservative to the point where he's kind of checked out of like things that aren't his culture, like classical. You know what I mean? Like it's this very like, I don't want to, because I think he's brilliant and I think he's smart, but it's this very, I don't want to say the word elitist, but there's this like, I'm classically orthodox. I'm classically trained on the violin, and like what you do, Zuby, is not music, right? Like it's how it comes off. And so, what was your interaction like with him and the way that podcast played out? And do you think you were able to persuade him to kind of open up his horizon a little bit and say, just because my definition of hip hop is not music, that no, it's still music, and I'm a hip hop artist, and I should be taken as a musician seriously, and that what you do and what I do is an art, it is a music, it is a craft, it does have melody, it does have rhythm, right? How do you think that interaction went with Ben Shapiro specifically?
I think it went really well. That first interview was in 2019.
Okay.
To this day, I've done literally hundreds and hundreds.
You're probably
of
like the first rapper on there, right?
Yeah, definitely.
He just had Tom McDonald on there like a couple weeks ago, and then but that was the first time I ever saw him interview a rapper.
Yeah,
I think you were the change, bro. You bringing him around.
Yeah, it was a great interaction. So that interview was only planned on the week. So I'd gone out to LA for the first time. This is September 2019.
I think that's when we first met.
Yeah, to do the Rubin Report, because Dave Rubin was in LA, and then the Joe Rogan Experience for the first time. And then Ben Shapiro on the Daily Wire reached out and said, hey, we want to do a Sunday special with you that weekend. So that's when I met Jeremy. I remember I met Michael Knowles. I'd already met Candace because we did an interview in London earlier that summer. And, you know, I met Ben and found he speaks just as fast in real life.
That man speaks fast, bro. I react to stuff at 1.25 speed. Not with Ben Shapiro, bro. He's just rattling off, man.
Yeah, very nice guy and polite. You know, I get asked a lot, you know, what are all these people like in real life? And super nice guy, super polite, very, you know, very friendly. Yeah. And so the conversation was really good. Something I respect Ben a lot. I like Ben a lot. I know he's seen by, you know, controversial by a lot of people. I like most controversial people. I know a lot of controversial people. I'm considered one to some people. But what I really like about Ben is, you know, he has his very strong values and principles and beliefs, but at the same time, he's also very open-minded. He's very intellectually curious. He's not someone who just will talk to people who share his exact religious beliefs and political beliefs and whatever. You know, he'll have on people from all over the spectrum on his show, as long as they're willing to sit down.
Yeah, and I've always appreciated that.
Yeah, I think that's cool because that's what we need, and that's how you build understanding. So I think that specific conversation, I mean, this is going back 3.5 years ago, but that convo went really well. I think I was able to open his perspective on a few other things. You know, we have a lot of points of agreement. But then with something like rap and hip hop.
Hey, you want to see something kind of crazy? Over 75% of the people that watch this channel are not subscribed. Please consider subscribing and turning your bell notification on so that you don't miss anything we have going here.
I mean, it was interesting because he asked me my perspective on, and a lot of my criticisms of a lot of mainstream rap and hip hop are exactly the same as his. Which are a lot of the stuff that is pushed out there is degenerate.
Content-wise.
Yeah, content-wise. Content, yeah.
I'm not talking about, I think we'd all agree on
I'm
that.
not talking about if it's music or not, but it's, you know, the messaging in hip-hop, if you're listening to a lot of the stuff, I'm sure, you know, somebody comes on the radio with your kids, you'll be like, I don't know, like, let's not have that on, 100%. Right?
I think most reasonable people, even if you're not a conservative or a Christian, would probably agree.
Yeah.
Not playing WAP with my kids in the car.
Exactly.
You know
and
what I mean?
What's crazy is those are the type of songs that are going #1. And that's not really new.
Yes.
Even if we go back to when we were teenagers or before that, I know, you know, you went to go to see Snoop Dogg
when
you were a kid. And what,
I was like, so I couldn't have been older than 10, bro. I think I was like 8 or 9. I was my son's age seeing Snoop, Death Row, Doggy Style Tour. Is it the Doggy Style Tour or the Chronic Tour? Yeah.
It's not exactly wholesome. You know, there's a lot of violence, a lot of sexism, you know, genuine misogyny, promotion and glorification of dealing.
Do you think
even
that's
drug
why
taking
it
and
makes
so
him
on.
say that that's not music, though? Because I feel like we could all agree.
Yeah.
Again, even if you're a liberal, if you're a leftist, you'd be like, WAP's probably not a good thing to play with my kids in the car, right?
Yeah.
We would all agree.
Hopefully.
But do you think that the content is then what would make someone like Ben say it's not music?
Do you know what I think it is? Is I just think, there is mainstream hip hop. There's stuff I've heard on the radio, and I'm like, dude, if this was all I heard of hip hop, maybe I also wouldn't think it's music, because I'm hearing something. I'm like, lyrically and musically, like, this is very lackluster, but it's getting blasted out on the radio. It's playing in the clubs, whatever. You have to remember, most people, if you're not a hip hop fan, your only exposure to it is really going to be like the most mainstream stuff that's pushed out there, that's on the radio and so on. You're not going underground and finding independent artists and all that kind of stuff. So I think the view of music is, comes from how his father or classical music teachers explicitly define music to him as having these three elements,
which rap does have, though.
It does, but rap there is melodic rap.
Yeah,
not all rap is melodic. Most rap isn't.
Yeah,
but I would not I don't think music explicitly must be melodic to be music.
Sure. Somebody said some conservatives have no fun button.
It's true. It's actually true. If someone could just be like banging out a drum beat and to me that's music. I wouldn't say, oh, there's no melody.
Okay.
I'm like, that in itself is music. So to me, that's like a very subjective thing. But I know he did change his mind on that. I don't know what university it was, but in some Q&A, a student actually stood up and asked him about this, and he explicitly brought up that he'd had me on the show and that I changed his mind. So
Zuby out here changing conservatives' mind. I love it. All right. That's great, man. I loved his interview with William Lane Craig. I thought that was a great conversation. Yeah, I'm not sure if you ever saw that. They were talking about the resurrection of Jesus.
I did, yeah.
And William Lane Craig is just laying it on him, bro. He's like, well, the evidence for this and the evidence for that and this whole thing. And then Shapiro's just like,
let's move on.
Well, I just don't find that interesting. And I was like, oh, you tapped out, man. You tapped out. You didn't want to go there on Jesus and you tapped out. But it's great to hear that you changed his mind on hip hop. Maybe I can change his mind on Jesus someday.
Maybe so, man. I would love to see you guys sit down and have a conversation.
I'll reach out. I'll send him a DM on Instagram, which he probably will not see.
Hey, this is a segment from our daily after party stream. Consider partnering with us online for as little as $5 a month to get access to these daily after party streams completely unedited. You'll also get access to our podcast as they are streamed live into the community before anyone else gets to see them, get to interact with our guests, get access to our private Discord server, and a discount code for our store for as little as $5 a month. Ultimately, that will help towards helping us continue contextualizing the gospel using media and podcast here on YouTube. All right, I'll see you over there. Peace.